Hi, I'm Elysia Buss, host of Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection, and today we get to interview the fabulous English transplant to Australia, Sarah Munn, who is in Melbourne, a city we have not yet had the opportunity to interview out of, and it is in the state of Victoria. So we have a special interview today because I love how we get to interview people who are doing different things with the work. And Sarah has done two different things with the work, specifically working with people with occupational therapy and horses. And she's diversified a lot in that field. Her website, folks, is epic. It's going to blow your mind how many different services that this woman has created in helping her community. And then she's working, rehabbing retired race horses and like helping youth. It's just like so exciting. And and then she's training other people on how to do the kind of work that she does because she wants to empower other people in the work that she does. So before I get too carried away, which may be too late, I'm going to hand it over to the lovely Sarah.
Hello, thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and like how does occupational therapy work with horses?
So, yeah, I mean, I've been an OT for a long time. I graduated in '96, so I've been at it a fair while, and I've always worked with children. And I think really the OT side of it, for me, I've taken it much more back to its grassroots of being a very holistic, practical profession. And I feel like it had ended up being a little bit medicalized.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Here in the US as well.
Yeah. And I think we kind of, we were the people. When I trained, I did pottery, I did woodwork, I did art therapy, drama therapy. I did loads of really different things. And these days, they're not necessarily doing that in uni, and it's more about discharge planning and equipment. And I wonder if we've, thrown the baby out with the bathwater a little bit. So
yeah, that's an old phrase.
Yeah. So I think, I've ended up really going back to getting children outside, playing outside. I mean, that was my main goal.
I love that.
And why are kids with Down syndrome or autism spectrum disorder or ADHD, why are they sitting in clinic waiting rooms?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Goal? Like, that's a really terrible childhood memory to have. So we were a bit like, I'll meet you in the paddock, I'll meet you at the farm, let's meet at the beach. And we've ended up creating a lot of outdoor programs. So now Barefoot Therapists, which is my therapy practice, we've got 23 staff in that.
That's amazing. That is such a big staff for what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so we've got 10 OTs, we've got 3 speech pathologists, we've got a provisional psychologist, a dietitian, bunch of assistants, which include RDA coaches and horsey people and, all of that. And
RDA coaches, can you explain that a little bit further for our viewers that don't necessarily know what that is?
So RDA is Riding for Disabled, or now I think it's called Riding Disabilities. So so we have a few centres like that around, and although that's not what I offer, those coaches have brought a lot to my team, particularly when we want do some mounted work. That's something that they're very skilled at doing. So they help us out as well. So we've got a big team, and we've got people doing all sorts of different outdoor programs, bike riding, horticulture, construction. We've got a kids shed where they make things at the farm, and
that's so cool.
and outdoor fitness activities, all that kind of stuff. And the bit that I've been really focusing on for the last 6 years has been the equine assisted therapy program.
Fantastic.
So I only really work with horses and children and their parents or carers. And then more recently, in the last 6 months or so, with somebody else, Elysia Griffiths from Red Hill Equestrian and I have set up a charity. So we're underway with that at the moment. And that charity specifically is working with retired racehorses off the track, trying to give them a future. and give them some new training, new experiences, working in with the families as well, to have some work in the therapy field. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it seems like the retired racehorses would be like a really great population to work with, because they're usually so amped up, and you're having to like teach them how to regulate themselves a little bit better. And working with teens and people that struggle with that is, I imagine, is some pretty powerful work. And how old are how old are these retired racehorses, since some people don't understand the industry and when they start and how long their careers last?
There's a range. I mean, probably the main sort of age around for us, I would think, is 7 or 8. We have some younger and some older. And I mean, some of ours have literally been, you know, rescued from the sales and the auctions where they might end up with the dogger. That's what, I don't know if that's an Aussie term.
That is definitely an Aussie term. So we'll tell them the sad term that means in the English language.
Yeah. So anyway, that is not,
that are taking them to slaughter.
Yeah, it's not a good outcome. So we have had some of those that we've literally bought for, you know, a few dollars more than the meat man, which is, you know. And then we've had others that have been gifted to us. One who was lame and they didn't really know what the prognosis was going to be, so didn't have the eventing future that the person that took him thought he was going to have. So he's with us until he gets sorted and we can work out what he can and can't do.
Right.
Yeah, and so we've had a mixture. We've got 8 thoroughbreds now, and then we've got 8 other. I've got 8 horses as well. So we've got ponies on the program too.
Like minis or ponies?
Yeah, we've got 2 miniatures, a few ponies, a couple of quarter horses, a couple of Arabians, nice big stock horse, spotty Appaloosa. Yeah, we got a few. And then, so we kind of have 2 venues, because I've always run my business from Boneo, where I've got a acreage there. And then last year we moved our clinic, which used to be in town, we moved it to a big equestrian property, which is where Elysia was, and we just rented the rooms. We became a tenant there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then we moved the ponies in, and then Elysia and I said, should we do this together? Like, we've got this big beautiful property, we've got an indoor and an outdoor arena, we've got all this space, we should be doing something together. And that's when we decided that we really wanted to help some of these racehorses that were not being given a very good future, and their future wasn't guaranteed. Yeah. So we were like, look, maybe we can. She's a good horse trainer. She has some good staff there that have done wonders. The horses are out on the trail. They're getting floated wherever they can go for different experiences. They're all desensitized to just normal farm life, and now ready to be working. They're working in the program with me and the children. And then I have a provisional psychologist, another OT full time, and a speech pathologist who also do sessions with us too. So yeah, so lots of things going on. But I mean, 2 different business models in a way. I mean, one's a private business that I have to run, you know, for profit, and I have to theoretically for profit. If you've got horses on anything, you never get any profit. But you know, 23 staff, I've got to have enough money in there to pay the staff at the end of the fortnight.
I mean, with that big of a staff, I mean, you'd have to be doing pretty well for yourself to just even keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, we have hundreds of appointments every week, not just with the horses, but with everything. And then the other side of it is it's a love job, you know. We've set up a charity with no money in it.
Passion projects.
And it's insane. And look, it's great fun, but really now we're trying to raise awareness so that we can get donations. Because the dream for the charity is that not only can we get some support to look after the racehorses and train them, but we can actually get some funds to offer free therapy. And over here, we have a different sort of health system, I think, to America, and very different from what I was used to in England. But there is a big gap here for youth with mental health challenges. And there is not really enough funding for them, and not enough programs either, particularly at the moment. We want to be able to say, come on down for nothing, see a registered qualified therapist, with some horses on this program, and we will help you out, and we will support you and give you new tools and, you know, new techniques to live a better life,
That's so,
rather than
so
rather than dropping out.
What's
And we're
the
really,
age group you work with for that?
look, for that program, just with the mainly being a thoroughbred program, we're kind of targeting older kids. So sort of secondary, high school age is where we're going. We're working with our local school at the moment to identify their students that are most at risk.
So like 15
And
to 18?
yeah, even 12 to 18. And you know, look, we have children as young as 2 or 3 that will work with miniatures on their.
Oh my goodness, that must be so precious. Do you have some video of this little tiny tykes like working with the minis on your website?
I do.
Oh,
I got some good video of kids running around doing liberty with ponies and stuff.
oh my goodness gracious. You guys, you have to check this out. I think I might have to put like a link specifically underneath this video for that, because everybody needs a little bit of light and love and adorableness in their day.
I know. I'll have to dig some stuff out.
Please do.
Yeah. So So look, we do see a whole range of ages, but particularly with the charity, the target group we feel is those children who don't have a diagnosis or a disability, so they're not getting what we call the NDIS, which is our National Disability Insurance Scheme. So they're not getting that.
Yeah.
They maybe haven't got a mental health diagnosis, but families and schools know that they're going down the plug hole and their anxieties are increasing, mental health, you know, that they're vulnerable children. And that's the group that, if the parents don't have private funding to come to a therapy session, then they don't get any real help. There's a little bit of a rebate from Medicare, but you know, I mean, equine services, if you're doing it as a business, you know, you have to charge fairly well to support your staff and your horses and your facility. So, you know, it's difficult. Whereas with the charity, what we're hoping to do is to encourage other people to step into that space and say, as a community, I believe we have a responsibility to not just say, hasn't there been a lot of suicides at the local high school, or whatever the story may be. We have a responsibility to say, did we see it coming? Could we have seen it coming? Could we have done something? You know, and our local community has done a lot of work on that. We obviously, all places have challenges with their youth, and we're no exception. But we've done a lot of work through, you know, the schools and the therapy that's available. We already see people for nothing, but we can't see everyone for nothing.
No, because everybody still needs to eat. You need to eat, and your staff needs to eat, and it's a lot. The thoroughbreds eat a lot of food. Let me tell you, those are some big, tall horses, y'all. Like, it's, and how much would you say like a bale of hay costs down there?
Oh, look, depending on the quality, anything from sort of, you know, $12 to sort of $20. But we get through so much, especially in winter. There's no, you know, the grass hasn't really got a lot in it either. So because we're winter here at the moment. So
it's a lot, because I mean, like, I don't know how big your bales are, but up here it's like about 4 flakes a day for a horse to eat, like 2 in the morning and 2 at night sort of situation. It's like some grain or supplements, or, you know, so it can go through pretty quick if you only have 16 flakes in a bale. You know,
and some of our horses, when they arrive, most of the horses that were gifted to us were in fairly good condition, but the horses that we did save them. I don't like to use the word save, but we did. And
they can be a bit anorexic, and it takes a lot, and like really a lot of awareness on how to properly feed a horse that's coming out of a starvation space.
That's right. And, you know, they're low on things like magnesium.
Their muscles are spasming, and all these.
Yeah. So, you know, we have a great farrier as well. Matt Reinstron is our farrier, and he is the most gentle man in the world. And he's wonderful. And he also gives us advice around things like that. He's just one of those old souls that just knows horses. And he'll take all day. If it takes all day to get that foot up and trimmed, he will take the time. And so, you know, he's helping us as well re-educate the horses to be, you know, handled nicely. particularly with their feet. And he will often say, you know, this horse needs a bit more of this supplement, a bit more of that. We're like, can we get it gifted? Is anyone going to give it us? You know?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Having the right farrier makes all the difference in the world, because having a bad farrier can ruin a horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you've had that
And
experience
some of our
before.
horses, I feel like, either through their, you know, through their experiences in the racing industry, or in that period where they finished but were in limbo, because what were they doing? And we don't know, you know, we don't always know what were they actually doing, and who was actually handling them, and who was picking up their feet. And, you know, and if they come with problems, and even I think horses that don't particularly have problems, if they don't trust you from the get-go, and they've just been through a really harrowing experience of being moved around in trucks and here and there and a bit neglected, or whatever the story is, they're not necessarily going to give you their feet. You know, they're going to be like,
that's their safety. That's their safety. That's how they get away from predators, is their feet.
This is how I run away.
Yeah, they're like, okay, I'm going to let you lift my foot up. And it doesn't seem like a big deal to us, especially like if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to pick your foot. But in their minds, that's a lot of trust to give an individual.
That's
hard to run on 3 feet.
That's right. These are my wheels to get away from you if you're not very nice. I'm not going to give you them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of people forget about that.
I do too. And I think, you know, with all horses, but particularly we need to be mindful, you know, and these are big, powerful horses too. If they, you know, if they've got an objection, you're going to have some techniques up your sleeve. And so all our therapists are qualified registered therapists, but they're also horse people.
Fantastic.
So one of them's a strapper, has worked in the racing industry. One used to run her own riding school. You know, they've all got their own experiences so that they can handle these horses. And then Elysia has her horse training team that get them ready for us, so that they are some way ready for us. And then they do all sorts of different stuff that they didn't do in the racing industry. You know, we put rope halters on them. We do the, you know, the sort of more gentle handling as well. We kind of bring the best, we hope, from the different training backgrounds, and bring all of that in. So you'll have a dressage rider doing some work with, you know, our horsemanship trainer who will have his cowboy hat on, and, you know,
I love that so much. There's a lot of, you know, I feel like in the industry, people look down at some of the different styles of riding. So you don't often hear about dressage riders and cowboys getting along together when they're talking about horsemanship skills and whatnot. And I just love when I get to hear about different facilities where people are honoring their paths and being able to come together in a way where they can communicate effectively and really honoring the horse. Because at the end of the day, like, our egos have no place in the work that we do. And it's really about like honoring the sentient being that's been kind enough to allow us into their space and into their lives to help us, you know, heal ourselves and the people that we work with. Because as practitioners, we still have bad days. You know, we're humans, and we can come to the table and something might have happened, you know, in your family or like on the road or something random. And then we have to regulate ourselves before we engage with our clients so that we're not projecting anything onto the horse. Because like, even if we do a really awesome job with that person, like, you know, that horse is still going to feel what that's something you're processing, right?
Yeah, and we're trying to build in more well-being opportunities for the horses. And because I have such a strong therapy background and I've managed teams and all of that kind of stuff, I can kind of go, well, what would we offer to a therapist? We would offer mentoring, coaching, supervision, training, opportunities to sit and have a cuppa. Hey, that looked like a rough session. You want to have lunch with me?
Yeah.
Horses?
Oh, I love that.
That looked like a rough session. I'm going to have a sit-down chat with you. Let's have a debrief. Let's just do some neck flexion. Let's just get your head down for a minute before I take you to the paddock. Let's walk back in step together.
Thank you.
To your paddock. And this is a challenge because this is how I would like it to be run. But, you know, we have a therapy team who are busy with appointments. We have a stable team who are busy trying to feed horses, move them in and out of stables. We've got other horses at the facility that need looking after that aren't on the program. So everyone's busy, and I'm saying, let's lead them on the right side, because they don't do that very often. and let's try and walk in step. That's just one way you can not really add too much more time and nicely get them back to the paddock. So it'd be really nice to build more of that in and have those well-being opportunities for the horses to lick and chew outside a session.
Yeah.
Because they do that in a session because the session is difficult.
Yeah.
And we don't do that very much with them just to say, hey, do you want to hang out? Because as people, we would have a good old chinwag and say, oh God, that really annoyed me and that was really tough. And actually it was quite emotional.
Yeah.
And we would debrief. And, you don't do that in the session, even if the session is difficult. So we're looking at that sort of stuff too, which I'm excited about.
I'm really so grateful to hear you say that, because I feel like I don't necessarily hear that enough with people. And I don't know if they are doing it, but just to articulate it, it doesn't occur that often. Something that I really love to do with my horses to help them with a session like that is that I've started really focusing on breathing with them.
Yeah, great. Love it.
Just like taking like 5 breaths in and then like holding and like letting it out, and paying attention to gating and transitioning, like speeding up and slowing down with the transition of the exhale, and how that really helps them to calm down.
Yeah. And interestingly, that's what we do with the kids on the spectrum and with ADHD and anxiety, and, we'll have parents come and say, oh gosh, transitions are so difficult. The morning routine is a nightmare, getting them to school, it's just so hard, and they're so oppositional and this and that and the other. And you just kind of go, yeah, but what you're probably doing, because we're all, all of us parents probably do similar things, is you're doing your own thing, and it's right. Come on, who's ready? Have you got your shoes on? Why haven't you brushed your teeth? Come on, where's your hoodie for school? Get straight into the business. And we do that with horses. Okay, this is your job. Come on, we've got to get down there because the session's going to start soon, and you got muddy legs, so we need to brush them off. Whatever it is,
right?
It's all about the business of the day. And actually, with kids and with horses, if you go, meet them, join them in the space, say, hey, how are you doing? How are we getting along? What's the time? We're going to have to get a bit of a move on. Let's take a breath and work out what we need to do. The first thing we're going to do is brush our teeth. Then we need to find our shoes. Can you do that? Brush your teeth, find your shoes. So much better than, have you brushed your teeth?
Right?
Where's your shoes? We all call from the kitchen while we're making the sandwiches.
I know, it's so funny too, because I feel like when you if you did a rewind of the day, right, and if you overlaid how long it would take you to go through slowly and honoring the pace instead of having them rigged up against you, that you would actually get to where you wanted a lot faster, because there's like more acceptance and less grace.
And particularly with horses. And with horses, you wouldn't need any extra training. Because if you always did it right, where would the extra training be? Because if you always did it right, getting the whole trot, getting the pole down to get the whole trot, not doing it ever up here. No, you always get your head
You want
down.
them to put their nose in the halter, not you to have to catch their face.
And if I know you've got your head down, then I know that you're chilling a little bit and you might be ready to go and meet a child.
Exactly.
If you still got your head in the air and you're running away, you're nowhere near ready. So, I think a lot of the training can be done incidentally.
Yeah.
And again, that's another therapy analogy. I remember when I used to manage a big hospital team, and I saw kids, people saw elderly people and all of that. And we did a lot of work. We did a whole project on incidental activity in the hospital. And we were like, why are these people, old people, lying in bed, and they might have come in to have surgery or something, but the surgeon's busy, so they're in for 3 days. They spend 3 days in bed, and it's like, how are these older people allowed to lie in bed developing sores and cramps and muscle wastage? Why is nobody helping them with the incidental activity of, hey, would you like to get up and get dressed and at least sit out in the chair? And would you like to come down to the shop with me and get a newspaper or something like that? And you can actually make it yourself to go and have a shower. You can do that. and all these things, they were doing them at home, and then they would get to hospital, and then they wouldn't do anything, and everyone was like, oh no, they're just waiting for surgery. It's like, they're waiting for surgery, but they're 86, they need to get out of bed or they'll never get out of bed.
Right? And then you're like, well, what about like isometric contractions that you can do while you're in bed, so you're still using the muscles and they're not just like laying there like glasses, like that.
Yeah, and we got a bunch of volunteers and said, go around, read the paper with them, do the crossword. Let's get incidental activity in there. You know, it doesn't need to be a therapist doing something big. It's incident, and I think that's the case.
I love
with
that.
horses. Doesn't need to be the horse trainer. It can be the person bringing them in with a few techniques.
Yeah, 100%.
But we got a long way to go to get that implemented into a team of people with a load of racehorses, you know. So anyway, it's a life work. It's a journey.
No, it's beautiful. Gosh, there's just so much. It's just this is such a gold interview today. I'm really excited to get to share this with everybody. It's just going to be fabulous. Can you tell me a little bit more about the science behind what you do?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it, in the equine assisted therapy world, because the research is patchy, it's confused, there's so many terms for what we do, and there's so many different levels of training for therapists, things like that. So I think that's a challenge in itself, to look at the literature and say, yep, there's a really strong evidence base for this work. Because what is this work? I do it differently from you, you do it differently from someone else. So all I can really bring is my OT. So OT is evidence-based practice, and we're very clear about what there is in the research that we can use. And it'd be the same with counsellors and people like that. They might say, oh, I'm going to use CBT. We might say we're going to use sensory processing approach and look at how's the child interpreting the sensory information in their bodies and in the environment, and how can we assist them with that on the farm or in the stables. So we might use that kind of evidence-based practice. And what I think the most I can do is say I'm doing OT and the horses are included, and these are the activities. I can include any activity and do OT, anything at all. Yeah. So the fact that everybody, I mean, I think in the equine assisted therapy world, or equine facilitated learning, whatever it is, wherever you sit on that, the common denominator is that horses have a little bit of magic of their own, and horses are therapeutic for most people. Not all people, some people hate them, but I don't want to go near them. But, you know, in general, we all have this belief that the therapists can be the horses in a way, you know, that there's something therapeutic in that. But the point of difference for each of us is, what do we bring as the human into that from our professional background? So for me, I'm a therapist, someone else might be a counsellor. This morning I was talking to someone who's more of a leadership coach. So she works in corporate. So she was like, I'd never call myself a therapist, but I've been doing corporate leadership for donkey's years, way before I got the horses involved. So you bring your profession to the horses. And that, to me, is where the magic really happens, because that's where it's the common area is, yes, the horses can help people, can heal people, but the magic is where you put in someone that's truly gifted at what they do and has a strong professional background in what they do, and that's where you go, oh my gosh, you put that with the horse, and boom, you're just like, we're kicking goals here. You know, you've got kids that have never spoken, chatting away. You've got children that couldn't tie their shoelaces with the baler twine, and they're tying something together, and you're like, you've got it. Have a go on your runners, you know. And you're changing what they can do, because you're putting the science behind the therapy in with the magic of the horse in a way. And that's what I love. That's what I enjoy doing. I'm basically just applying what we did in the clinic with a different activity.
Interesting. Yeah, no, there's a lot of magic to all of it. I feel like with the horses, there's just so much in the nonverbal communication from the horses that people struggle with these days, especially with, like, so many people are behind their phones and they've stopped reading the nonverbal cues from other people, what you can oftentimes stop conflict before it even actually manifests if you're able to notice the shift in a person's energy as well as the physical, disposition of them.
Absolutely. And I've noticed quite a lot with the kids on the spectrum. We see a lot of kids on the spectrum. Most of them that come here also have ADHD and anxiety. And that's kind of why they've chosen our practice, I guess, over others that are maybe more clinic based, because they're actually either sick of being in the clinic, sick of talking about it, too fidgety for all of that anyway. So they want to come here and climb fences and do it differently. But I've been astonished with how many times all we're doing is talking about what the horse is doing, and we might be taking one of the Arabians to do something, and they're being all ridiculous and they're so hyper, and I'm trying to get the child to breathe, to slow the horse, and suddenly you've got them lunging in a circle and, circling beautifully, and then they blow out and the horse stops in its tracks. You go, okay, we love that. And we don't talk about it much, but walking back, they'll say something like, that horse is just like me. Just like me. I'm just like that. I just go, 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 and I don't listen to anybody. And I really need someone to kind of go, whoo, you just need to stop. And things like that happen, and you're like, I didn't actually have to say very much. And these children are more articulate than you think when they're around the horses. And yet, if you ask them to kind of see the perspective of another person, they might struggle with that. Oh, well, I don't really care what they think or what they do, because it's all about me, because kids are egotistical. That's how they work the world out. So but suddenly they are trying to see the horse's perspective. They are trying to see the world through their eyes, and they are kind of coming up with these things. Maybe it was scared because the tractor set off. Maybe it didn't like that. Did you hear that crow? Because that crow was really loud. And you're like, oh, hang on, so you've got all these auditory processing issues. You're telling me that the horse didn't like the tractor, didn't like the crows, and you're like, you picked up on all of that. That maybe raised your anxiety. You've just told me heaps about you, and we don't have to say. We can get very good at interpreting for people, but I found with my kids, they can interpret really well. They can almost do their own assessment. You're like, you just tell me, I don't like the touch of that. that hay feels painful to me. I can't do that. Oh, I'm not going to touch that. There's some, mixed bran on the spoon. I can't touch that. They do the assessment for me. I really don't need to do very much. Whereas in a clinic, you'd be like, okay, so do they, dislike different textures on their hands? Tip the sheet, Whereas here it's like, they tell you all of it in a session with the horses on the farm. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful. I mean, the horses have no agenda. They just want to keep themselves safe and eat grass typically, and then they choose to engage with us, and there's no filter that's there between what they're telling another person and what that person tells the horse. And I feel like that creates more of a container for the person to be receptive to what the horse has to say versus a person, because we always have an agenda. It might be a positive agenda versus a negative agenda, but we still have an agenda where the horse has none, and that has that nonverbal communication, right? And so you have some of these students that struggle with nonverbal communication when they're autistic, or maybe they can speak, but there's that horse gets me. I can talk to that horse because I don't have the pressure of it being an auditory experience.
Absolutely. But I mean, look at society. People are talking about you need to work on being authentic. Horses don't work on being authentic.
They just are. They're totally present in the moment.
I know. And we've kind of, we've been, I don't know, we've had all sorts of stuff laid on top of us, and we've got all our own, agendas, ambitions, egos, whatever you call it, what you like. We then have to go back and go, oh, how can I be true to myself? How can I live the life I really should be living? And how can I be the person I want to be? And I find with my children, I've got 2 children that are both on the spectrum, and they've both got ADHD, and one of them has Down syndrome as well. So they're challenging kids in some ways. And I can tell parents, if you do this and you're gentle with them, and then always go and talk to them, and always make sure that they can see your face, because if they can't pick up on all those social cues and nuances and tones of voice, they can't pick up on all of that, you're not going to get very far in your communication. And I'm still back with the sandwiches. Boys, get ready!
Because we're all human.
Because I'm human. And it's like, you can't be calm. That's authentic for me. You know, I'm human, and I also do need to get you to school on time. So it is authentic for me. But then we have to pick all this apart and go, wow, I'm not living the way I want to be living, but that's because I want to be perfect.
Yeah, and then so it's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then we always get to we get to constantly evolve and grow within ourselves, because we can't expect somebody else to listen to us and to grow if we're not willing to take the time to do the work ourselves.
That's right. That's right. And the horse doesn't need to do any work, because the horse just says, I'm in this mood today, I'm in a different mood tomorrow. Same horse, different mood, but they're pretty similar most of the time.
Right, but it helps bring out different things in people, exactly, because I feel like oftentimes if somebody comes and a horse is usually like, oh, the horse might have been in a different mood before the person showed up, and then the horse is feeding off the energy and the nonverbal cues that person is bringing with them, right? And so then they're going to react differently, and then that mirrors the person and shows them something else that they can learn and evolve.
And I think that's why I love lively horses for this program. I've got a little Welsh cross Arabian pony, and when I first, she's just ridiculous. I mean, she loves me and she loves the work, but still, every time you go to get her from the paddock, oh God, what's going on? I've got to get her out of here, quick! Off she goes, and I just blow at her. She comes back, she faces up nicely, but she's just always has to do that. And when I first got her, I got my two boys. My boys are 10 and 11 now, and they would have been, I must have had her 5 or 6 years. So they were like, I don't know, 5 and 6, something like that. And one of them, my boy with Down syndrome, he was, pretty mellow, came down. He couldn't see very well. He can't hear very well. He's just kind of, clinging on to me a little bit. And he jumped on her for a ride. We gave her a brush and everything. He jumped on her for a ride, and she was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do? Okay, I'm just going to put my head down and I'm just going to walk along. Is this right? And you're like, yeah, that's great. Brilliant, Star. That's absolutely great. My other son then gets on for a ride, who is completely hyperactive, different kind of kid. And she goes, doing dressage? Are we off? Are we off? And she was so forward. Neither of them could ride. And he's like, Mom! And she was just prancing pony, completely different with the two boys, completely different.
That is so funny.
And she's still the same. You can tell which of them's gone to the paddock by what she's doing. And she does pony. When my eldest boy, who she tries her hardest. She tries so hard to be calm for him, and she'll do pony club and stuff like that. But yeah, she's very different with everybody, and that gives you such a good opportunity to, she's just so expressive at mirroring back to our clients, and it gives you so much to work on, and that's why I don't have any sort of riding school ponies. None of them are dull. Some of them have a bit too much attitude sometimes, but you're like, well, at least you're giving us something to work with. You're not just dull, going to stand there like, you could be, brushing a stuffed horse kind of thing.
You're so squishy. Only in the wintertime. Do your horses get super furry there in the winter? Does it get cold in Melbourne in the winter?
Yeah. It's not as cold as where I come from. People are commenting it's freezing if it comes down to 1 degree. So yeah. They do get fluffy. I don't, the miniatures, I don't put rugs on them. But most of the others have a rug through the depth of winter. Yeah.
Especially those thoroughbreds.
The thoroughbreds do. Yeah. They need them. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting, the science and how the thermoregulation can get a little bit mixed up when they get blanketed for so much of their life, especially early on.
Yeah, I'm really careful. I don't put much on my ponies at all. But where they are, it gets really, you can get a real driving cold rain. So they really do, if they're not accessing the shelters, they do need a rain sheet on. But I'm just careful because I know it affects the sort of sugar levels going into spring for the ponies. So yeah, the little ones that might be at risk of founder, I don't ever rug them. although they're getting older, like, you know, who knows what they're going to need when they're in their 20s, which they're nearly there now.
Yeah. Isn't it so funny how you sometimes, I don't know if your horses do this over there. I mean, I feel like horses are horses, so they probably do. But like up here, my horses sometimes, like, they have a shelter, right? And it's pouring down rain. And they're just like, no, I just want to stand outside of the rain. And you're just like, there's a shelter like right over
Yeah.
there.
And guess what? I paid to put that shelter there for you. Can you
Right?
believe it?
You're just like, why? Or it'll be like
Yeah.
snowing and they're just like,
Yeah. I know. I felt so sorry for you when you didn't have a shelter. I made you one, and now you
exactly. And then you're just like, only every once in a while do you stand in it. And you're just like, why? You're so weird. Oh, they crack me up so much. Can you tell me some of the models that like informed your work? Because I feel like in Australia you might have different models. Like when you worked with the horses, like what? Because you said you were part of an equine assisted learning program, if I remember correctly from before.
I did equine facilitated learning with Elaine Russell over here, who runs the Australian equine facilitated learning program, and she's local to me, so that was, you know, a good opportunity for me to train with her, and that was really all I did. And I looked at all sorts of other things, but I'm not very structured. And so, you know, I looked at some of the other programs and some of the other training that was available, and I was like, oh, it's not going to fit my personality. I'm not going to be able to
Important to honor that. You know,
Yeah,
you don't have to do all the trainings. You just do the one that informs the work to give you like a framework and that you can bounce off. I mean, obviously you have a tremendous amount of knowledge as an occupational therapist that you get to bring to the work. So it seems like just molding the two of those together is a really beautiful thing. And then you get to create something new. And then you're going to be training other people. Is that correct? Getting to do the equine
look,
therapy.
getting more into that now, because I'm realizing I'm getting more and more inquiries from other therapists in Australia who, you know, want to do this kind of thing or have started and don't really know where to take it, and they like me haven't found a training course that really speaks to them necessarily where they're at. So I've kind of ended up in that space where, and I think particularly also having my own children who I've taught to ride and all of that stuff, you know, I've kind of got the lived experience of, you know, coming and feeding horses every morning with, you know, a kid with Down syndrome in tow. And okay, it needs to be safe. You need to stand on the same side as me, you know, and that sort of thing is so natural for me now. But yeah, I didn't want to follow a structure. I felt like I didn't want to be pigeonholed. I felt like they weren't talking to occupational therapists. I didn't want to throw out the OT because I love it and I believe in it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to end up, and also, you know, a lot of the stuff was, you know, the counselling or the psychotherapy angles, they're not going to work with my, you know, my preschool, you know, population on the spectrum. They're never going to work with that population.
Yeah.
So why do that, you know? And it's hard because you know, I'm not a particularly arrogant person. I'm fairly humble, but I was a little bit like, I was a little bit like, you know, I actually think I know how to do this. I'm just going to get on with it. And I honestly,
confidence and arrogance are not the same thing. They can be squished together sometimes, but they don't have to be the same. It's good to know your skill sets and be confident in that.
And I think, you know, and I'm 51. I was 40 when I had my first child, so I'd had a really strong career. I started horses and trained horses with my mum as a kid. That's what my mum did for a living.
That's
so
cool.
I was like, I've got this background. I've been the first on the racehorse. It's just been, you know, or not the racehorse, but the thoroughbred, you know, that mum's picked up from somewhere and wants to break it in, as we called it in those days. You know, you get on first, you're the lightest, you know, so all I'd be 13 years old. And it was almost like all of my background and all of my, you know, that thing about preparation and opportunity, you know, and it felt like all those things came together. And so although I loved and I love what Elaine and the EFL guys do, and I think that's brilliant for non-therapists. I value it, but for me, I was like, I have so much else I need to put in this, and you kind of can't knock a square peg in a round hole. So after a while, you go, this is a good basis, but now nothing else really was doing what I was doing, and there's not many OTs doing it over here. So yeah,
it sounds like you should write a book.
Oh yeah, that's what Leaf reckons. I have started my book, and I will finish it. I will finish it.
We have you on record. You're done for now.
All right, deadline. I'll give myself 12 months. Is that too long?
No, I think it took me about a year to write my thesis. It was around 180 pages. It was my life's work, and so I'm really excited to get to send that to you.
Well, maybe what we should do is we'll book in another interview for July 2021.
Oh, I'm gonna put it in my calendar. Like right now. Putting it in the calendar.
Yeah. Sarah's finished her book.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try and like publish mine for the academic side. You publish your book. It'll be like our deal with each other. Well, like COVID should be over by then. We'll like meet over drinks in Melbourne to like celebrate our success. And yeah. And so speaking of, don't you have an American coming to see you sometime soon?
An American? Oh, well, Leif Halberg does come out. So yeah, I mean, I was supposed to be on one of her workshops in May, but obviously she couldn't come. So later in the year, hopefully when she can come, she will. But yeah, which is great, and that's such an asset to us over here to have, you know, somebody come with different ideas and fresh eyes, and yeah, because you guys have got a lot more of this in your sector. Come on, you've got more people, so you know Australia doesn't.
Is that why you guys are so much cooler over there, because you have less people?
What?
I love this lady. She's so fantastic. It's fun to make her laugh. Sometimes I just have to say silly random things to make her laugh because she just has such a fabulous laugh.
Yeah.
Leif is a mutual connection of ours. So Leif Halberg is an amazing, amazing human being. She has written, I think, 3 books now?
Yeah, I think I've got 3 on the shelf, I think.
Yeah, she has written some of the most comprehensive books for our industry. And I'm not going to tell you too much about it because, she's going to get one for us. You're going to
get book. Oh, is that backwards? Is that all backwards?
No, it's perfect. It just looks backwards to you. But no, this is one of the fabulous books that Leif most recently came out with. She's
look at all my little
and look at all the tabbies she has, you guys. My gosh. Look at all the tabbies. She's gonna have that thing memorized by the time we finally get down there after COVID's done. Leif is amazing. She's going to be on the show later in July, and she's doing some really amazing programming right now on her Facebook page. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to put it in the comments, guys, because I can't remember the name right now. My brain is freezing. It happens to us all. Don't judge me. She's doing amazing work with
everyone.
What?
Everyone. She's
kind of at least just
a bit like you. Everyone. She's kind of
like 400 people on like her Facebook group after it was like on for like a week or two. Like her and Elysia Algie. I'm totally butchering your name. I'm sorry, Elysia. Like but she's the Wind, I believe is the name of her business in Australia. I've been talking to so many cool Australians lately. I feel really lucky. I keep telling people all these things. I'm like, they're like my favorite people. My American friends are gonna be like, why don't you just move if you love them so much? Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, okay, I'll do that. They love me over there. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm really excited to have both of those lovely ladies on the show. It's going to be fun. I love the collaboration from people all over the world. It is such a gift to be able to interview so many people.
And I feel like, you know, this has just gone boom. It's COVID, and it's everyone locking down inside, and suddenly everyone has this, I don't know if it's a collective consciousness or whatever, but suddenly everyone's going, I don't only need to connect with people in my state. I can connect. This energy is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Leif and I started talking on Zoom because she couldn't come and do a course.
Yeah.
you know. So and so yeah, and then she set up a global thing, you set up a global thing. I'm going, I'll talk to you, this is exciting. And it's so good. And I question whether it would have happened without, I mean, it's unfortunate that it has to come out at such a
Oh,
difficult time.
no, I agree. But I think it's so beautiful. They created a space that might have been created later in a different way for people to outreach, but it really put us in a position to have more time, and there was a need, and we're all just like, oh my gosh, like, what do we do? Our places are shut down. We're suddenly sitting at home and wondering, like, what is this next stage of life, and how can we support our community to collaborate and stay afloat and continue to help people, because there's a greater need worldwide for the services that we provide, which is why I created Global Equine Affiliates and started doing these interviews, was to increase the frequency for equine therapy, and not just in the equine world though, just any person that's really working to empower others. Because that's what we need. We need to all stand together, and like the rising tide raises all ships sort of concept. Like having that abundance mindset and be like, we all have a tremendous amount of knowledge. It doesn't have to, we don't have to be the same. It's not about competition. It's about honoring that there are billions of people and that need our help. And people don't know what they don't know. And so that's why if we increase the visibility so people know about the services that people have all over the world, then we'll have a greater chance of making things better.
I agree.
People out of that fear state and helping them to regulate their emotions and be able to make better choices and have more functional relationships with themselves and their family members and their peers. And I'm just so grateful for the time that you gave me and my viewers today. And thank you so much for reaching out. I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Somebody actually reached out to me, and that's just so cool.
And I think, and this is what I believe this time has been about, is people have suddenly gone, you know what, let's not focus on how we're different. Let's focus on what we have in common. And let's focus on a shared goal here of let's look after each other so that we can look after everybody else.
Exactly. Like, why are you here, right? Like, why are you here? If you want to help other people, like, why do we just focus on our clients? Why can't that be about like helping the other people in our profession?
Yeah.
Everybody's
and
got
there's always enough clients, and there's always enough scope for different approaches and slightly different ways of doing things and very different ways of doing things. None of us are wrong. And I love that we're all coming together and finding the common ground. I think it's really exciting. And I've been happily having my head in the sand, just going, I'm just going to do my own thing here. I don't really care what God's doing. But suddenly it's like, you know what? People might actually like to hear what I've been doing.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, when I started to dig deeper into what Sarah had to offer, I was just so incredibly grateful and excited to get to talk to her. And I think all the rest of you should too, like really take a moment and look at her website, give her a call, see how you can align and collaborate. And maybe we can all do retreats later, and just the general populace, just see what we can do. I feel like Sarah needs to be like doing a TED Talk or something about occupational therapy personally, and how the horses inform it. Is that on the agenda? Did we not get to that already?
That would be good. Or my Rehab for Rehab charity, we could talk about that. I think that's taking a lot of my energy at the moment.
Yeah, they can do that. Right before all this happened, I had actually started a nonprofit called Essential Revolution that was supposed to be a dance club as a nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, no, we're not allowed to have any social gatherings. That's totally not gonna work. Equine and life coaching, all the virtual life coaching I can get my hands on. Like, everybody come see me. I'll help you in this way. We'll talk about dancing later.
Yeah, the dance schools have been really badly hit, actually. They're really struggling.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I have a couple of friends that have dance studios here in Washington State, and it's just, my heart is like breaking for them, because they provide such an amazing service to the community, and thank God they've been able to stay afloat doing virtual things. And don't you do Zoom for your
well, we've had to. I mean, we've got 15 therapists who one minute are all working out of rooms and, you know, down in the stables and outside, and suddenly, literally overnight, we had to, just like the schools and the education system, we had to just send everybody home. And I sent everybody home before the government told me to. I felt it was the right thing to do. And a couple of days
That's
later,
really important.
they said, you know, you can't. We are actually classed as an essential service, so we could have stayed open, but the staff weren't comfortable with that. I wasn't. Didn't think it was the right thing to do. We have some compromised immunity, you know, in our population as well. Some kids that aren't so well, some kids that certainly can't risk getting something that might lead to a chest infection or something like that. So we were especially careful. But if someone had said to me, set up an online platform to do all your hundreds of appointments every week with your therapist all working from home, and your administrator is going to have to, your receptionist is going to have to take a mobile phone home, and instead of having 3 lines, have 1 at her house, and set up your practice like that, please, I would have gone, no way in a million years, it won't work and it's impossible. And we've done it.
Bonkers. That's complete insanity.
I know, and we've done it, and we've been busy. We did have a fair few clients who the kids either didn't want to engage in it, so then we were like, well, maybe it's an opportunity to engage more with the parents. How are you coping? What coaching and support could we offer you if we can't work, you know, with your 2-year-old?
Really smart way to be flexible. And
so we did that for a lot of our current clients, and lots of them took that up. And then where we had gaps, we really promoted. We have a mental health team as well, with a couple of mental health OTs and a provisional psychologist that does counselling. So we basically hit social media with, we want to do more coaching and support. Get in touch if you want to do this. And loads of our parents came forward saying, oh, we'd love that, you know, we're really struggling, you know. So we just kind of changed the way we did things a bit. And we're hoping to get back to face-to-face next term, but we're recently having spikes in Victoria. So unfortunately things are going up a bit. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Did you guys, I think I heard, I don't know about in Victoria, I know in near Canberra that I should say I heard from a friend that was there that they were also having protests for the Black Lives Matter. Was that happening in Melbourne as well? Yeah,
so that happened. We've also had some trade union gatherings as well about some other issues here. So there have been gatherings, and all the school kids have been back. We're on 2 weeks holiday now, so it'll be interesting to see at the end of that 2 weeks whether they say don't go back or go back. Yeah. So
sorry, what was that last part? You cut out.
It's been challenging. Yeah, it's been challenging to run a business.
No, I can well imagine. Have any of your clients or the people that work with you brought anything up with things they're struggling with in regards to the protests happening?
No, not that I know of. No.
I was just curious.
I'm not frontline with a lot of that, because since this has been going on, because I usually do equine sessions, I've done a few of those one-to-one for people that really needed it.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I've been focusing on running the business and setting up the charity. So I haven't been sort of face-to-face with many parents.
Yeah.
But my staff have, yeah.
What do you feel like the emotion is? Like, what have people been struggling with the most during COVID in regards to like what you're talking about on the telehealth, the Zoom sessions? Have you noticed anything coming up?
Yeah, one of the biggest themes that we're seeing with our population is parents realizing how difficult it is for their children to tackle the schoolwork. So they're trying to tackle the schoolwork, and they're going, they don't seem to be able to follow the instructions, they don't seem to remember, they actually can't do the work. Why haven't the school told us this? Or the child's been much happier to do the work at home, they haven't had the anxiety that they have going to school. We've got quite a lot of children where the parents are saying, I don't know that they're going to go back to school, like, ever. Certainly not short term. You know, they've been happier, or the school haven't really helped us understand how many difficulties they were having. So is that the school didn't notice, or the school didn't want to deal with it, or that the child was masking all of this? Like, what's been going on? So we've had quite a lot of new referrals too, from people where the parents have kind of gone, I didn't realize they couldn't do this stuff. This should be fairly simple for them at this age and stage. So we've had people coming saying, you know, we're actually concerned, where they hadn't been as concerned before, when it was sort of the responsibility of the school to work it all out. And then once the parents are doing it all at home, they're like, gee whiz, they are struggling. Or they're struggling with the behavior dynamics and that kind of thing, and they're going, we're gonna kill each other. And you kind of go, no, you won't, we'll help you. You'll be right.
Yeah. And so when you do the Zoom calls, are you able to integrate the horses into that, or has that been just more to one for office?
I have done some of the kids have wanted to see the horses, so we've done some mindfulness, and I've done a few things on Facebook at the start. Haven't done any for a while, but I would walk around and do
I'm like, all just interviews now, not so much of like the sweet things I did in the beginning, like reading children's books with the horses to the kids.
Yeah, no, and I have walked around and taken rugs off and showed them doing that, and I've done some mindfulness with the horses, just like live, you know, on Facebook, those kind of things. So I probably should do a bit more. If we go into lockdown again, I'll do a bit more of that. But I did a fair bit of free stuff for families to access, and I asked kids if they wanted, or parents, if kids would like a mention. So I'd say, oh, this one's for so and so, and you know, starts with, you know, wants to say hi. So I did some little personal messages in there for some that needed a boost. And look, really, if we were going to lock down for a long time, I would develop more of that. And I'm more than happy to put free material out there that's going to help people generally. It's not hard to do. I don't need to charge for every single thing I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
You just get to pay it forward to other people. We've all had help at different points in our lives.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of which, can you talk to, I mean, I feel like dealing with COVID and all the protests and all the different ways that we've had to overcome things to run our businesses these days could be enough. But what are some personal obstacles that you came across in being able to develop your program and like really living your dream?
I think the biggest ones were probably quite personal fear-based ones around risk, and I was very, very nervous of what would happen if something went wrong, if someone got hurt.
Sure.
I ring my insurer every 6 months. Now I am covered for this, aren't I? I am covered. I became obsessed with, you know, oh my gosh, you know, what if this happens? Am I actually covered for it? What if? So I've got another staff member. Are they covered? Yes.
You're like, what about this over here? And
yeah. So I think it really was those things that sort of keep you awake at night, and I'm the kind of person where if I'm being kept awake at night by a worry, I want to listen to the worry. Okay, my body's telling me something doesn't feel quite right. So I want to listen to that. I'm happy to sit in the darkness for a bit. So I didn't want to mask over it all too much. And so I think some of that actually took me back to my own childhood, if I'm honest. My parents went bankrupt a couple of times when I was growing up, and we were homeless a couple of times, and literally camping in a farmer's field with no toilet, no facilities, no shower, having to get up, go to school, get washed up and dressed as best you could in last year's uniform. And you know, they were tough times, and that was always because Dad took a business risk. Right. So when I was in England, I've been here, I think I've been here 16 years now, but when I was in England, I was the only person in my extended family that, you know, really had a proper job, you know, and I'd work in a school or a hospital as an OT. I, you know, kind of went to uni and got a profession and got a salary. And an awful lot of people in my family didn't. They're entrepreneurs, they've got their own businesses, you know, lots of them have been, you know, very successful. Yeah. But my dad had his up times and his down times. And, you know, as an adult, it was the down times that petrified me. I was like, I've got my own children, I've got my own acreage, and I love my life. Please don't take it from me. And I was really quite nervous of that. So I became, and litigation is such a horrible thing. And I've changed my perception to it all now. And in fact, I was coaching a friend who's setting up a beautiful program, Achieve Southwest. They're setting up a lovely program of after school and weekend and holiday programs for kids with additional needs. Really beautiful people doing really great things. And they were saying, you know, look, we're just kind of starting, but we haven't really got policies and procedures in place. And what do we need? And this and that and the other. And it was really interesting to go back through and just say, tick these boxes so that you don't lie awake at night thinking, what if something happens? What if someone sues me? And I'm like, you know what? Everybody starts out as, we all know each other. The people like me, you know, the clients like me, the staff like me. I'm long enough in the tooth now to know that if you end on a bad note, anything can happen, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
But if something goes wrong, and I also said, you know, you like your clients and you like your staff. So if somebody does get hurt in the workplace, you have to be able to support them with medical help. And you have to be able to acknowledge, especially if you're running a business that you hope one day might make some money, you have to acknowledge you had an injury that's going to affect your ability to earn money so that I could earn more money. And so you have a duty and a responsibility to say, I need to be thoroughly covered so that if somebody I like has a mishap, and it's nobody's fault, I'm actually responsible and I'm covered and I'm safe and everything's okay. So I've gone through a huge journey, and now I go, you know what, I'm as covered as I can be, you know, God look after me.
Right, yeah, at some point you just have to let go. You just gotta let go.
And if somebody gets kicked, well, you know, we put as much in place as we could. The horses are as good as we can get them for this program. The staff are as trained as I can get them for this program. We have policies, procedures, safety, but there's a risk in going in a paddock and working with a horse. And I'm happy to take that risk because the benefits far, far, far outweigh the risks to me now. But that would have been one of my big hurdles, was one of those, that mental chatter, that self-talk of, what if it goes wrong? What if it goes wrong? And, you know, so that was horrible. So it wasn't big things. It wasn't, I didn't feel like I had the skills, or it wasn't that I wouldn't get the clients. I've always had clients. I've hardly marketed my business at all, ever since the first client I ever had. You know, I've been fortunate in that, I guess, or maybe it's because we're good at what we do, maybe.
Probably. Maybe just a little bit.
That's right. But yeah, so my battles, and I think this is the case across the board. I have a super life. My battles are with myself, as for most of us, really.
Yeah, that's why we have to just keep doing the work ourselves. Like even life coaches have life coaches. You know,
that's right.
We need to have life coaches and business coaches. Like any person in the business really needs to have a business coach if you want to keep going farther and farther, because it's just like they help you to continually evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to that, we were talking about right at the start about, you know, I'll support my staff to debrief and have plenty of opportunities for training and talk to me or other senior therapists, and hopefully we're going to develop enough opportunities for the horses. But it's like, hang on, where am I on this list with my 2 special kids and my, you know, all these horses and these 2 businesses? And, you know, it's like, heck, if I'm not going to have a moment of mindfulness every day, I'm going to sink. So let's just get that one in there right there, even though I've been up since 5 every day because my kids don't sleep or whatever the story is on the day, you know. I have found I've had to do lots of self-care every day, and the days I don't are the days I you know, I get very exhausted.
Yeah,
and I do it. I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD. I'm happy with that because, geez, I get a lot done. Neurologically driven. Go. Yeah, I'm like, yay. But it's like, I now feel blessed by that. You know, I'm the Arabian Welsh pony. I now feel blessed by that's my character. And I don't think, oh my God, you know, why am I doing so much? And I'm not looking after myself. It's like, you know what? I can do a sprint for a week. I can sprint for a week, and now I'm loving this fast run I'm doing, rather than, oh my God, I'm going to burn out. I'm going to be exhausted. I can't go on like this. You know, I don't say that to myself.
Let go of the considerations.
Yeah, let's run. Let's really go. Because I know come Saturday, I'm then going to have a few days off, and I will turn off the phones, turn off the emails, and I'll just go to ground.
Beautiful.
That's my balance. I should probably be more balanced across the week, but I know who I am, so It's all
It's
right.
a really important thing. I mean, Sarah, you're a beautiful, just incredible human being and such a wonderful role model for all of us out here and what you're doing. I just can't say enough good things about you, honestly. Like
Oh,
I'm very impressed with you, both as a human being and as an equine professional and occupational therapist.
oh, thank you. That is really lovely feedback. I think when you get to the position where you're running a business, nobody gives you feedback anymore unless it's, something's not quite right.
Oh no, that's not good.
It's nice. And much as self-validation is the best validation, validation from others is also important, and it's lovely to hear.
Yeah.
And thanks for the opportunity for letting me reach a large audience too, because this isn't something I've done before. This is a phase in my life where I'm going, well, if I'm going to set up a charity and need support with that, people need to know who I am and where I am, and what I'm doing. So thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I agree. People do need to know who you are and what you're doing, because what you're doing is pretty epic. So, yeah, before we go, this has been such a beautiful interview. I am going to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Which is, who inspires you in the world?
Oh, I don't know how long I've got for that one. Who inspires me?
There's no rush. You can take a moment.
No. I think I'm going to say my family, because that's what came. That's what came. And my children, with their differences, one highly intelligent, one with an intellectual disability, teach me every day the kind of human I need to be, and the kind of people I need to grow them, the kind of men I need to grow them into for other people to live with. And my husband is an amazing human being. That's another whole nother love story, that one. And my parents, my dad, who had his ups and downs, he now has dementia. He still comes and cleans my paddocks 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
And he says, Sarah, please don't stop me coming. And he will always be able to come and do that, and we will support him to do that. And I spend much more time stopping and talking to him than I ever have. And he has helped me be a businesswoman. I'm not always convinced he was great at business, but he taught me one thing: a good business person gets a win-win for everybody. And I love that. And my mum, who trained horses with me and put up with my tantrums through my teens when my pony wouldn't jump at the show and wouldn't do this, and telling her I hate her, and all right, that's it, she's going, don't sell my pony, I love my pony, all that. And my mum still rides with us. She's 74. She was out riding one of the racehorses off the track that's only been here a few months recently. She's fearless. She helps me with the boys. At the drop of a hat, she helps me with my children. She'll do absolutely anything. She helps me run the program. She's one of our therapy assistants, actually. So she does a couple of groups with us a week. And she brings a different dynamic to our family, particularly for children that may not have a strong family. They get to meet some, older, wiser people in their life, which I think is gold. And I think my mum has taught me, she inspires me to be me and nobody else but me. And I love that, because she's herself. She's one interesting lady who walks her own path, and I've got a lot of strength from that. So I think they're the people that really inspire me. I don't know why. I guess they made me. So
there's no wrong answer to this question, and all of everything that you just explained is just so beautiful.
It's quite emotional, actually. It's like, oh, my lovely little family. And my parents moved here a few years ago from France. They'd lived in France all of my adult life.
Oh, wow. Whereabouts in France?
They were not too far from Lyon, in the sort of middle, in the mountains. Yeah.
Beautiful area.
It was beautiful, and they had a lovely, lovely life. And then when I had my 2 boys, and when they were toddlers, it was difficult, you know. One would be running for the road, one would be running for the water, and I'd be, you know, they were 2 and 3. The elder one was Ike has Down syndrome, so they both hit the same kind of terrible toddler time at the same time. It was like having these awful twins. And then when they both ended up having autism and ADHD, I'm like, oh, that's why I never had a breakdown. That was really tough. And so at that time, I remember my dad saying, you know, why did God give you a child like that? I can't, he said, I can't understand why you did that to you. You didn't deserve it. I said, Dad, of course me. Who else? I said, if he was going to pick who to give a kid like that to, of course he's going to choose me.
Because you did the best lives ever.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't going to pick anyone else. It's fine. It's cool. And my dad always says, you know, that was the time I was okay with it. When you said that, I thought, you're okay with it. I'm okay with it. So, you know, when I was struggling with the boys, they just said, we're moving to Australia. And now they live within 10-minute drive, which is good.
Yeah.
Dad is only allowed to drive 10 minutes. He's not allowed to drive on the freeway, and he can't drive more than 15 kilometres. So it's a good job they moved close by. So yeah, you know, they kind of moved here to support me. So we've ended up with this, you know, having been a very independent London girl for a long time, I've kind of gathered my family back around me, and we're a beautiful little unit now.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. I love it when families get to come together like that and be like multi-generational situation. Parents, because I'm sure you help your parents too, right? And
yeah, and I mean, you know, they are going to need my support, and you know, and absolutely.
That's what we do. And it's
right.
Just like my mom broke her ankle, and now now I get to be mom, you know, and take on all the responsibilities and take care of my family, which I'm not bitter about. Like, I love my family. It's very important for me to be there for them.
Yeah.
Because like we get to take our turn, right? They took care of us when we were little, and now when they struggle, like we get to take care of them. And that's such a gift, you know, to be able to have that kind of relationship, to get to be there for your family.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. Well, I am so inspired by like your stories and like what you're doing I'm inspired by you. Like, wow, like honestly. And it's cool to think about, because we have 11-year age difference between the two of us. And because when did you start your facility?
So I started up on my own in 2012. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's not that long ago.
No. So before that I was risk averse and working for the local health service.
Oh my gosh! To see, I mean, you guys see how much he's developed. And how long is your waiting list again, so that people can
I just keep employing people.
Which is the way to go. Just keep growing. You need like a whole nother center, you know. You just need to keep going. We're just gonna basically soon you're gonna be like the Pirelli of Australia, but for occupational.
Oh, but you know what happened? I will do a shout out to Courtney Prosser, who, as a coach I worked with when I very first moved to Australia. She was my coach and my counsellor, and through my, you know, move to the other side of the world kind of thing, I had a bit of support from her, and loved the way she worked. She worked through mindfulness and meditation, and then she cropped up on my social media last year as a business coach, and I'm like, I'd love to work with her again. I thought she lived overseas, and anyway, she ended up living down the road from me here, and we did some business coaching together through meditation. No profit and loss, no, you know, let's look at your goal, none of that. It was all very much about what I wanted to do with my business and what was real to me and what the blockages were. And since we cleared some of that, oh, I'm scared of this and I'm scared of that, and now I've cleared that, it's like, oh my goodness, look how fast it's going. Like it's
gangbusters, so fast.
And I'm loving it, because I'm going, rather than saying I don't have time for everything, I'm going, there is enough time. She's taught me things like there is enough time, and it will be successful. And there won't be any problems. Love it. So that I'm sure that's why I'm careering along now, you know, just loving it, enjoying it.
No, that's so beautiful. I was just like, oh, look how fast yours went. I'm like, my life coaching business and everything and globally Quant Affiliates is gonna be like straight up.
Yeah.
Imagine where it'll be in like 8 years.
If you got no blockages, man, it can fly.
Exactly. It's only a matter of time before I take over the world. All for good, of course.
All for good. All for good. Yeah.
All for good. All right, my friend. It has been a fabulous evening. It's turning evening now here. It's 8:15 here in Olympia, Washington, in the United States. And yeah, just so much fun, so much gratitude. And I look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll go for lunch. It's lunchtime here.
Oh, sounds delicious. All right. Thank you to all my viewers who have taken the time to watch this incredible interview. It did run a bit longer than our usual ones, which is totally fine because, wow, what a power-packed interview we had this evening. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Goodbye.